So today, therefore, we want to work on, we know the year's theme is love others as Christ loves. But then this particular quarter, we are on ministry in focus. So we want to focus on ministry. How do I put love in ministry? How do I focus on ministry, the issues of love? And so ministry has been described in the Bible in many ways. But when you go 1 Corinthians chapter number 12, there's so much of it, of how we minister to each other. Very much of it. But first that one, Paul now tells us, okay, you may have all those ministries. I desire that you minister to each other. I desire prophesy, do other things. But there's something more excellent. And excellence, here it says better way. My King James, I'm a King James person. I will show you a more excellent way, a better way. To go by this one. Yeah, a more excellent way. Excellent comes from the word excel. So you see, these things are going to excel when you have this one. So it says, I'm going to show you a more excellent way, which you are going to look at today as part of ministry, to minister to each other. But before that, we have our dear brother John. John, in 1 John, chapter number 4, tells us a few things about this. So I'm already started my sermon. So my sermon is the first bit of it. We have admonition, simple admonition, because the topic for today is love simplified. That's the message for today, love simplified. So let me therefore be very simple. We start with simple admonition from our brother John, and that we find in 1 John, chapter number 4, quite a number of verses, and I quote a number of them. But let me first of all tell you the background of 1 John, because it's always good to know what is it that John is talking about, or why is he writing like this. Anytime you read an epistle, try to find out why was that being written, what was going on at that time. So it's important to know that this particular letter was not written to any particular group. It's not where you are saying to the Ephesians, the Colossians. This one is a circular to the Christians. It's a circular letter to Christians in a number of places. Therefore applicable to us. Not that the others are not applicable. But when you do a circular letter, then that one is expected to circulate to everybody. So this particular letter that John wrote was not meant to be a particular group, but to all of us. And why was it written? Or when was it written? It was written in a time when we had a group of people who were coming up called Gnostics or Gnostics. I think Gnostics would do better. Now, these are fellows who came and said, now look, you have heard about salvation, it has been preached to you, but we want to tell you there's something more than that. There's some extra knowledge that you need to have. And that extra knowledge is what makes you a Christian. And of course, I needed to say that the kind of heresy that's going on now, maybe a bit worse than that. So if I'm going to write an epistle, I may now have to deal with what's going on now. No names, but the kind of things going on. But he had raised with that in mind, that people are now coming and telling people, it's not enough to just come and say, I'm a Christian. No! You need some extra knowledge of things. And one of their main knowledges that they thought they had, better than anybody else, was that matter is inherently evil. And matter means your body. It's inherently evil. Therefore, your body anyway is going to decay, which is a fact. You know that's a fact. But for that, they therefore said, in that case, if that is so evil, then why do you have to worry about the body? If you want to feed it on junk, why not? Because after all, it's evil and it's going to perish anyway. There's nothing good about it. But they were saying the spirit is entirely good. So only worry about your spirit. But I think that kind of dualism is difficult, because how to take care of your body, how to take care of spirit without taking care of your body? Because if today you are going to commit suicide, because the body is evil anyway, and the spirit is entirely good, that spirit cannot exist without the body, at least for you here on earth. Out in heaven, yes, but as long as we are here on earth, the body and the spirit have to go together. So the kind of teaching that they were having, John wanted to contradict that one. And that's why he starts by saying, if you read from the starting point, from verse 1 continuing, He's talking about the Antichrist who are already there. So he's saying, don't wait for them to come some other time, but they're already with us. But that's not my point today. My point today is from verse number 3. From verse number 3, he comes and tells us, actually verse number 4, but you can connect it with number 3. It's a starting point. Remember, I'm talking about simple admonition from him. So he says, verse number 4, let's start with the number 4. He says, you people don't have to worry. Why shouldn't you worry? A few things, 3 things. You are of God. So I want to encourage us here this day. Simple admonition from John, before as we talk about ministry in love, or ministering to each other, ministry in focus, and simple is love simplified. He says, there are those antichrist, fine, but not you. Why? Because you have got little children, and not only that, you have overcome the world. Why have you overcome the world? Or how have you overcome the world? How and why? See, it's there. I'm a school teacher, so let's talk about what is there. So you can see it all there. It's there. It's there. Why have you overcome the world? Because greater is he who is in you than he that is in the world. That's very simple. Remember, we talk about love simplified. We are simplifying things. So he's saying, now look, you don't have to worry about all these things. There's the Antichrist, and they teach about matter is inherently evil, spirit is good, and so they are leading people away. And so many people have gone away, but not you. Why? Because you are of God, you do children, and you have already overcome those antichrists. So for us to be seated here today, we are seated here because you have already overcome the Antichrist. And I want you to be able to say you are part of that. But you have been able to do that simply because the one in you is greater than he is that is in the world. So love simplified. So the first thing we are going to say is that for you, there's so much power in you. If only you want to appropriate that one to yourself. Because already the one who is in you is greater than he that is in the world. So when you walk around and they are doing all kinds of messes, and then you say, how come? Can I make it? No, you can't. But because of the one who is in you, that's why you're making it. Because greater is he that is in you than in the world. So that's simple admonition as a starting point. But then he says, for that to happen also, there's something that you need to do. Verse number 7. Verse number 7, remember we're talking about admonition simplified. Simple admonition. By the way, I have only 2 points. So when you hear them, I'm through. The first point is, the first one is simple admonition. That's the first one. The second one, of course, is love simplified. And then we are through. You see how simple it is? I mean, we said we'll be simple today. So, verse number 7, the admonition is giving now, love one, beloved, let us love one another. Beloved, let us love one another. Why? Love is? So he says, love is of God. So for that reason, let's love one another. And everyone that loveth is born of God and with God. So he says, that's what's expected. Now that he has started with the starting point, you have God, you have overcome the Antichrist, because greater is he that is in you than in the world. Then love one another. Now that you have that group of people, the group of people called IDC JKUAT, the group of people called born again Christians, love one another. Let people look at you and say, wow, these people, there's something about them. In the case they know we are Christians by our love. So love one another. And then he continues to say, look, if you ask to love one another, you say, yeah, but I love them, all right. Verse 11. So let's see what verse 11 tells us. Verse 11 and verse about that. Beloved, if God so loved us, we ought also to love one another. So there is a reason why we love each other. Number one, God loved so much that, of course, you know what he did. He gave his only begotten and all that and all that. So if he loved us so much, then we have reason also to love each other. But even more profound or more disturbing to some of us is now when it comes to verse 20 and 21. Remember, I'm on simple admonition. So 20 and 21, he says, and I think that's what is quite humbling. Can you read it for yourself? If a man says, I love God and hated his brother, how many liars do we have? He says, if a man says, I love God, but hates his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother whom he has seen, how can he love God whom he has not seen? I love people. No, not. I don't think I love them. Okay, since I must love people. But there's some Wananchi who said that I have seen Christ. I met him. I fled. Paul says you have not even seen him, but you say you love him. How can you love somebody you do not see, and yet the one that is with you on daily basis you hate them? It doesn't work. So that's John is admonishing us here. Simple admonition. He says that if you truly are God, say that you love God, then you must be seen to be loving your brother. But if you hate your brother, don't come and say, I love God. Liar. Because that's what he says. You're a liar. So we can sing all night how much I love. Oh, how I love Jesus because he first loved. That agrees with those two verses. But then the second part. Liar. If you do not love your brother. So I think the admonition for us this day, therefore, is we love each other. We love one another. In verse 21, he concludes with it and saying, and this commandment have we from him, that he who loved God, love his brother also. So that we are talking about ministry focus. So if you are going to focus on the ministry for each other, then it's important that you know the first thing that's required of us to minister to each other is to love each other. Once you love each other, believe me, that ministry already 95% done. The other 5% can be where you're telling somebody, you are hungry, I'll give you a few shillings. But the first thing is love. If you love your brother, you love your sister, believe you me, ministry is already done. So, if you are going to focus on ministry, the first thing that must be seen to be there is you must be seen to love your brother and not hate him. So if you are here and there is a brother, a sister that you have a challenge with, and you say they are unlovables, remember yourself, you are terribly unlovable, but God loved you just the way you are. So if he loved you the way you are so unlovable, I mean, what is there unlovable about you? Can you try to investigate your life? Anything lovable about you? Zero. But he still loved you the way you are. I mean, so if God so loved you, that's what we read in verse 11, that if God so loved you, then we ought to love our brothers, as you know, that's what he says. So that is my point number one, simple admonition by John that we must love each other. We don't have an option. If we are truly going to say we are Christians, we must love each other. Anything else, that's not true. It doesn't work. We must love each other. But then my point number two, the practical steps, because you can say, yes, me, I love everybody. I love them. Then we want to have love simplified. Let's simplify it. Let's break it down. How do you say you love each other? Let us break it down. And that's why now we first have the 1 Corinthians, 1 Corinthians chapter number 13. And there are 3 points to it, or sub-points. Since I said I've only 3 points, so sub-points now. So sub-point number 1, what love is not, and what ministry is not. Verse number 1, 1 Corinthians, chapter number 13. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels. You know, it's good to know they are out there. I'm not sure which one the president was speaking in State House the other day, whether it was the one of men of angels, but never mind. but you're saying, if I speak the language of men and of angels, but do not have love, I'm a sounding gong or a clanging cymbal. So the point here there he's saying is that spiritual gifts, and maybe you can connect it with verse 2. I think the point he's trying to make is that spiritual gifts and giftings are not necessarily a sign of love. If I have the gift of prophecy, and understand all mysteries, and know knowledge, and if I have all faith, so that I can move mountains, but not have love, I'm nothing. So I think the point he's trying to bring about here is, the fact that you have gifts and giftings of ministry, that is not in any way saying that you love your brother, or for that matter, you love God. The fact that you have all those gifts. You know, I like the way when you go today and you find people who are building ministries upon the gifts. Yesterday I was watching one. I love watching them once in a while. So I was watching one. And for him, he says, when you are with me, you are absolutely safe because the devil can't come anywhere near you. And I said, that's quite something. Not that I want to be near him. I would rather fight the devil because... But he says, I mean, he is so gifted that for him, walk with him. Shetani akiniona. How does the song go? Does the song say? Shetani akiniona anatetemeka. You know, so for him, he's so gifted. Shetani akimuona. So I'm trying to imagine Shetani akikuona anaanza kutetemeka. My friend, you need to think more than that. Anyhow, but the point you're saying here is, Paul now selects these 4 gifts as examples: the tongues, the prophecy, faith, giving. That's verse 3. Verse 3 now talks about sacrifice. Please put to verse 3. And if I donate all my goods to feed the poor, you know, so generous that everybody looks and says, wow, I would want to be Wakaba. The way he gives. I mean, when he gets 2 shirts, he gives away 1. This is very good. By the way, there are people here in this church who are good at that. We thank God for that. Part of 2 shirts, they give away 1. At least Kerika and I have been given some 2 shirts. You remember? We are given shirts. So we are talking things we know. They happen, which is very good. But he's saying, verse 3, if I donate all my goods, not just the shirts now, all my goods to feed the poor, and if I give my body to be burned, you know, you can even say, I love these people so much. I love that me. I want to really be such a Christian that you burn my body if that's the only way the gospel is going to be preached. But not for love. You are doing it so that now you can really prove a point. Can't you see? I can even offer my body to be burned. If it has no love, what does it say? I gain nothing. So in other words, there are people who are going to die purportedly for Christ. But those deaths are going to be meaningless because they are not going to gain anything. So it says, if I were to give my body to be burnt, but not have love, nothing. So basically what Paul is saying in point number 1 is that point number 1, he selects these 4 gifts and says that even the most spectacular manifestations without love mean nothing. So I think that's what you are trying to say. What is not love? Manifestations of gifts, of ministries, of sacrifice, without love mean nothing. Remember, we are talking about love simplified. We are trying to simplify it. You know, what is the practical love? What are the tips? Let's don't just say, it's not just an abstract term that me, I love people. It's not so abstract. We need to simplify to bring it down to our level. And this is when now we start bringing it down to our level properly by looking at the nature of love and the characteristics of love. What is expected of love? And I would say this one, if you're a married man, a married woman, now don't start looking at those who are the other wananchi. Apply it at home. I pray to your husband, to your wife. Karis 1 year married, praise the Lord. Apply it. It's very helpful. Kiriga married for quite a few years. Applied. Hey, those years is quite a few. Shosh, 45 now. Almost 50 years. But I think we can, of course, we can apply it in anywhere. But I think in marriage it's important. Normally when we are talking about 1 Corinthians 13, we normally don't bring it so much in marriage. But I think it's important to bring it seriously in marriage. Because that's where ministry is required most. Most of your ministry, if you're a married man, it is to your wife. If you're a married woman, it is to your husband. Because the point is, ministry is supposed to be clearing and forwarding people to heaven. Now, if you are not prepared to clear and forward your wife to heaven, but you can clear everybody else in a crusade, you know, You know, you're going to a crusade and clear people to heaven. But at home, my friend, you clear them at home. Your biggest ministry. I used to hear to be told that when I was in the university as a student by an old Muse who was about the age I am now. And he was saying, why do people want to get married? I said, I want to get married because I need a wife. He said, no. You have to get married so that you can now help your spouse to heaven. That's ministry. So remember, you're on ministry focus. So we are saying, therefore, these characteristics, this nature given here is applicable to us at home. And if you're not married, it's still applicable to you with your parents, with your siblings. Because when you talk about neighbors, who is your nearest neighbor? At home, that's your nearest neighbor. Because you wake up in the morning, is the first face you see. As you sleep before you start nodding, is the last face you see. That's quite a neighbor. You know? Out here, after we leave this church, you may not see most of us until Sunday. So we are not such good neighbors. But at home, with that fellow there, I mean, before he sleeps at night, you have seen him. As you wake up, when you wake up in the middle of the night, the chap is still there snoring. I mean, now, that's quite a neighbor. So that's why now this must be more applicable. Richard, no, the other Richard now, you have a Richard here and another Richard here. You are very bad, Mabo bad, Kwako. But Richard, and she is not there today. Okay, somewhere. Good. So, what is love then? Simplified. Love, simplified. Number 4, love is? Life is patient. The first word is patient. My friend, if there's something which is causing a lot of trouble in homes, is patience. This woman has become impossible. And this man has become impossible. Patience, Buana. Love is patient. Because the minute he's become impossible, then love is gone. So don't come and say, I love my wife so much, but she is impossible. No. Then you don't love her. Because life is patient. I mean, you know, the other day, when we were doing marriage counseling with these dear men and women of God, we talk about when people are in courtship, that you're just walking and you drop something. I used to see some people drop something, both of you meet there, picking it. So of course you want your heads to bang each other. I mean, it feels nice, you know. But the minute you're married, she drops something. I have told you many times. I mean, how many times have I told you not to drop things? You know. But during courtship, she dropped it. Oh, I'm so sorry. So both of you meet there. Both of you are sorry. I mean, love is patient. She has broken a few glasses. Love is buy them. You know, that's love. You know, because before that, if she broke them, you say, don't, you buy more. Now, buy more when she breaks them at home, when you're married. Love is kind. You know? Oh, Catherine, no, you're not there. So, love is kind. I mean, let's be kind to each other. Love does not envy. Oh, you wonder, does that happen at home? Oh. At first I thought that would be a myth. It doesn't happen. Just before I got married, I met a brother who had married before me. And he told me, you know, when you get married, you have to know a few things. When you are going to visit your mother, you have to have a budget. Your wife insists on a budget. When you are going to visit her mother, there's no budget. It's a blank check. Because now when you are going there, I mean, this is my mother we are going to see, not your mother. So your mother, we have a budget. The ceiling is 1,000 bob. You know, don't go. This other one, please don't worry about it. I mean, as the Spirit leads. No. Now, what happens in such a situation? Envy starts to come in. And we start saying, here, I mean, how come her mother is more important than my mother? Love does not envy. Right? if she really must have 5,000 for the mother, and you as you only buy sugar, I know sugar has gone up, so sugar and unga, when you buy 1,000, just about 2 packets each, and you're done. The other one, you go with a full basket, and start envying. You fight, the sister starts to get academically better off. Or for that matter, the brother starts to get academically better off. And you start saying, since you got your PhD, I can see your pride. I have seen it. No, my friend, that's envy. You have not seen it, you ain't seen nothing yet. But because because you're envious. I mean, so let's simply say love. Remember, we are talking about, we are breaking it down. Love simplified. Love does not envy. It's not boastful. You know, you should know. Did you hear how I preached yesterday? Did you hear it? You're telling your wife or your husband, did you hear it? What are you boasting about? And your wife is not so interested with how you preached yesterday, or how yesterday you spoke to people and everybody clapped like they clapped for Herod. You know they clapped for Herod until the worms and came, he ate him up and he died. So you don't want to die like Herod. So don't go boasting about, do you know I've just been promoted, and you should understand that I bring food on the table. So that's why you are there. There's nothing special you have done. The Bible is very clear. There's nothing special you have done. Bring food on the table. Nothing special you have done. The wife says, do you know I had to wait for you until 10 o'clock in the night to make supper for you? So that's why you are there. So the question of boasting about the things that you have done or not done, that would not be so. Not at home. Verse 5. So we are talking about not boastful, not conceited. There are so many people, you just come across them and you almost want to run away from them because of how they are doing things. It's not rude. Does not act properly. Is not rude. You know, with brothers, when you annoy them at home, time and again they are not able to speak. Something comes and hits them here. Sour. Sour. But for the sister, the Lord blesses her with many words, most of which will be rude. And she'll tell you things which you never thought would ever be said by a Christian. She's still born again. After that, you go to church and said, born again. I'm glad absolutely born again. But rude, absolute rudeness. So that you now start, what are you talking about here? Not selfish, we must go quickly now. It's not selfish. So, I mean, at home or even in the relationship, not everything is about you. It's about me. Let them cool. No. Give me a eat for the sake of those who don't know Kiswahili. No, you don't go that way. I am told by the part of the reason for part of the sign of aging is selfishness. That if you come to another level, in aging, there are 4 steps. Let me educate you on them. The first one is forgetfulness. That's almost common to each one of us when you get some age. Because I've now got the sitting room to pick something, then I forget, what did I come to pick? Then I have to go back to the bedroom so that I start from there. So my children have told me, when you remember something, write it down. And so I have to write it down. Anyway, so that's the first one. But the second one which comes is that one of selfishness, that you really want things your way. Your way. It's selfishness and a bit of greed. You see, an old man, an old woman, the parents, the children come and they give them something, they hide somewhere, and then another one comes and says, for me, I have not seen people for 1 month now. Imagine, I'm alone here. Imagine how hungry we are here because they are just hidden the money there. So that's selfish. Don't go for that direction. Of course, that happens quite a bit. I'm not sure you are there yet. I hope not. But anyway, so those are selfishness. Or rather, where you are now so greedy for that everything has to go your way. No, that ought not be. Not easily provoked. You know, that anything somebody does, you are always on edge. No, a Christian, if you have love, a sign of love, you are not always on edge. In other words, you are prepared, somebody comes and says something, does something, then you want an explanation. Why did you do that? And more often than not, you get the explanation telling you that actually you are wrong in your thinking. So, do not get easily provoked. Not keep records. Men are the best record keepers, because what happens is, when you annoy them, they don't talk about it that time. There's a cabinet they open at the back here. Unaweka hiyo, you keep it there. Then another one comes, you keep there. Then one day when that cabinet is full, somebody has to die. Either them or you. So when you hear about these murders and suicides, quite a bit of that, especially from men, most of that from there. Because the cabinet gets full, it can't hold anymore. Because they have kept records of all the wrongs. So now finally it has to explode. So we are saying, love simplified, that ought not be so. Number 6, what is that? Does not act improperly, finds no joy in righteousness, but rejoices in the truth. I think that one is self-explanatory. Verse 7, since we must go a little faster. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Basically, what we're talking about here, ladies and gentlemen, is, I mean, you are so simple that what people see in you is what there is in you. There are so many people who are so complicated that you are talking them this, but they are saying beyond there. They are not saying what you are saying. In fact, they keep saying, you know, I heard more of what they are not saying than what they were saying. Now, believe in all things, my friend. You know, hopes all things, endures all things. That's important. And verse 8, I think, as you come to finish on that one, so endures all things. So we are really saying that's love simplified. Please use this as a checklist for yourself. At home, with your friends, in your office, checklist. So anytime that you think, you say, I love this man of God. I love this woman of God. Is it have you checked from verse 4 up to verse 8? Of 1 Corinthians chapter number 13. That's really important. So that one is a subtitle, it's a sub. We said that we only 2 points, so that's a point 2. So the next bit of sub point number 3, is that love is of eternal value. Apart from now knowing what it's not, and knowing its characteristics, let's also know that love is of eternal value. Okay. Verse number 8. Love never ends. Love never fails. You know, when you get home, because we ain't home yet, when we finally get there, there'll be so much love. I mean, you look at Christ and say, wow, you love me so much. No wonder. I used to read 1 Corinthians. No wonder I read John 3:16. For God so loved the world. No wonder I read that one. Because you are going to see it. Because love continues. So we are saying the first thing is that love never ends. Prophecy will fail. You know, prophecies right now, we keep getting them like from major prophets and minor prophets. And they tell us about it happening, not happening. You know all the prophecies which are said about elections. 70% have failed, 30% have passed. You know, so because prophecies will fail, when you are here, not even in heaven. Actually, because there will be no prophecies in heaven, so they will feel right here. Right here. So when somebody comes and prophesies to you about this and that, well, chances are that you will fail. But when it fails, just say no. You knew it was going to fail. So prophecy will come to an end. As for languages, tongues, they will cease. Because in heaven you have only one language. You may know the way it was before the Tower of Babel. They had told me that they had only one language. I'm not sure which one it is. I'm not sure it's Hebrew. I doubt. But when we get there, that language will be there. So why would you need to be speaking in tongues? To who? In the tongues of angels. You're already with the angels there. So what's the issue? So they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. whatever, some of us, when you have a little gift of knowledge, and you start here and say, I know the Lord has said, so and so, that lady there is going to be your boyfriend. Is it the girlfriend? Okay. I know the Lord. I know. One time, my brother was seated here when we had one who was doing exactly that, and he beat him so hard that I kept really worrying my brother is going to complain. But he came and picked one girl here who was dressed in green. I've been looking for that girl without success. And the girl was told, you are going to marry a Maasai. Gift of knowledge, or so we thought. Of course, the girl never came to church again after that. Because she thought, is that the church where people are going to be told who to marry? I would rather not be that church anymore. But, if you have any knowledge, the knowledge will come to an end. Because why will it come to an end? Because verse number 9 tells us the reason why things will come to an end is because we know in part. And even prophesied in part. I mean, any prophet that has come, even in the Old Testament, and they are prophesied, the kind of things they are prophesied normally have been in part, and others have come and add to that, so that we fill the basket. Now, so why will they come to pass? Because right now what we know is in part, and so we also prophesy in part. Why? Because the perfect is coming, verse number 10. Because the perfect is not there yet. But when the perfect comes, the partial will come to an end. So why would you need to go things which are partial now, when there is a possibility, when there is the mean one is coming, the little one is coming. So when the one little one comes, then the partial will have to go. So we are saying, whatever you are being impressed about now, and there's nothing wrong about being prophecy. Paul was saying, nothing wrong with prophecy, nothing wrong with tongues, nothing wrong with all those other spiritual gifts. Good ministry. But they'll come to an end. But there's one which will not come to an end. That's why he said, I'll show you a more excellent way. Verse 31 of chapter number 12. A more excellent way. And why so? Verse number 11 tells us, it's talking about stages of growth. When I was a child, I spoke like one. I love having glad children around. I behave like one. I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. And for a child, you're hungry, so you make noise. For somebody to come and feed you, you make noise. Now here some of us, you can see food there, but unajikasa too. God, I wish he would give me a bit of it. But if you're a child, you don't even say that. You go for it straight. When I became a man, I put away childish things. Because so really the issues of God are like now human growth, how we grow and how it works. So therefore, verse 2 of the last one of that is that the best that we see today, the best of the prophets, the best of the gifts of knowledge, the best of tongues, the best of gifts of healing, the best, not the worst, the best. For this best is still only very small, very partial. For we see distinctly as in a mirror. Because in a mirror you see yourself, but not who you are supposed, not the fully who you are. But then, face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully as I'm fully known. God, we say, is omniscient. Omniscient means all-knowing. So he reveals a bit to you. And you brag with the little that you know. It's so little. And then he gives somebody else something else. So, the point here is that the best that we see today is still very blurred. It's really not clear. The best that you can see today, and again going to the prophecies about elections, I mean, they were seeing so many things, but they are so blurred. They would see a bit of that, and then tell you, oh, I see that one. Then the other one says, I was in the castle of God, I saw that one. And some of them were true. God was showing them. But bits and pieces. But now, when we finally see him, the Bible says, that time, we shall see him face to face. And when you see his face, what would you need to prophesy to who? And about what? What other knowledge would you need to have when you can see him face to face? Then the best of our knowledge is still partial. So perfect knowledge is when we see him. So when you see him, you not need to say, I have a gift of knowledge. Yanini. What would it say up? He is there. The knowledge is there himself. I want to prophesy. Prophesy about what? He is there. So when you see him face to face, so that's for now we see indistinctly as in a mirror. But then face to face, now I know in part, but then I will know fully as I'm fully known. So even as we build those ministries about gift of knowledge, gift of prophecy, gift of all that, no, I will know fully as I am fully known. Therefore, the conclusion, because now it's conclusion. I said only 2 points and conclusion. So conclusion now. Ladies and gentlemen, that gives us that verse which we'll all love very much. Verse number 13 of 1 Corinthians 13. It's always good when you have 13. Isn't it 13? I think it is. Now, 3 important things. Faith is critical, it's crucial. Hebrews 11 verse 6. For without faith, it is impossible to please God. I mean, you cannot come to God without faith and hope to please him. Those of us who say, I must see before I believe, then you may never see God face to face here. And then in heaven also you will not see him anyway because you go to hell where you meet the devil. So it's important that you act on faith. So a lot of things we do by faith. There are many things that you are not able to prove scientifically about the Christian faith, but you do it by faith. So faith is absolutely important. We must not ignore that one. So we are saying there's need to have faith for us to be able to please God. There's also need to have hope, because without hope, there will be trouble. Now we are talking about the things which are there. Please go back to 1 Corinthians, that's where we are, verse 13. Need to have hope. 1 Thessalonians, chapter number 4, verse 13. It's important to have hope. Hope we must have. We do not want you to be uninformed brothers concerning those who are asleep, so that you live like the blessed who have no hope. We must have hope. So we are talking about three important things. Faith is important, absolutely important. So if you have no faith, please ask for it, and God will give you. If you have no hope, ask for it, so that you get it also. So those are 2 very important things. But with all those, love outdoes them all. But the greatest is, now by the faith, hope, love, these 3. But the greatest is love. So you can have faith to move mountains. You just come here to the church today, and they give you a chance to minister to us. And you say, by the word of knowledge, somebody here has HIV/AIDS, by the word of knowledge. And God says, start up here. As you start up here, it's done. Good. That's good. Faith. And you can do all that. But the greatest of them is, if you are doing all that without love, you are like a noisy gong. So faith supersedes all, because, number 1, it outlasts all of them. So long after all those other things that we seek after they are gone, when all that is gone, love outlasts all of them. But now by the faith, hope, love, these 3, the greatest of them is love. So, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, dear brothers, our topic today is love simplified. And the way we have simplified it is, I'll show you a more excellent way. That's what Paul is saying. And the more excellent way is, if you really want to minister to each other, and because we are talking about this particular quarter, it is ministry in focus. We want to minister to each other, then we have no option but to love that fellow who is both lovable and the one who is unlovable. Unless we do that, liars, we will be called. Let us pray.